everyone? Welcome back. NBA Talking It here on Nuts and Bolts Sports. 50 episodes with Raj, Jordan, Henry, as always. But today, for the 50th episode, we had to get a special guest. We got Randall joining us, new member of the NBS team. Hey, Randall, why don't you introduce yourself, what you do, your team, all that kind of stuff.
Appreciate you guys having me. Like you said, Randall Gim here from Minnesota, and diehard Wolves fan, and I might be dying soon with the way we're going. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to give you guys my insights and my views on the NBA world.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit too. Wolves here later on in the episode. Maybe get a couple mentions and later on. But yeah, we're kind of coming into this right before All Stars. The draft is about to happen for the All Star game in just about 10 minutes here. So maybe we'll get some live reactions on the air. But let's just kind of dive right into it, and let's kind of just discuss the landscape of this All Star weekend, if you even want to call it that as a whole, because this is obviously pretty different with the introduction, with the sort of reshaping of the league, the look of the league with COVID and whatnot. But the game is happening. It's going down in Atlanta. It's basically a one-night event. Sunday night is going to have, March 7th, Sunday night is going to have the entire sort of all-star lineup for the weekend, but it is going to look a little bit different. We're still getting some of the traditional events. So just to give you guys an idea of what the schedule looks like, 5 p.m. Eastern is when coverage starts on TNT. 6:30, we've got skills events, the Taco Bell Skills Challenge and Mountain Dew 3-Point Challenge. Then the game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, the All-Star game, which the draft is going to happen for in just a few minutes. And then at halftime of the All-Star game, we're going to be getting the slam dunk contest. So it's kind of weird. I guess I'll toss it to you, Randall, first to get your thoughts sort of on, what this weekend is going to look like, but also do you even feel like this weekend is necessary at this point? Because that's obviously been a hot topic with the players and with the league.
So with people not being emotionally invested into it like they were last year, especially with the tributes to Kobe, which are still happening this year, but you have people like LeBron saying that they're not interested, or De'Aaron Fox and things of that nature. So it kind of takes away from the draw. But the way the format is, with the score set being after the third quarter, adding 24 on to the target score, I think that always brings the best out of the players and heightens the defense. And that's what we really want to see. We want to see people like Kyle Lowry taking charges out there and people getting hyped. But we don't want it to end on the free throw. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But other than that, I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the sort of competitive aspect of the game, because it feels like leading up until last season, the All-Star game was always an afterthought. And last year, because they sort of changed the format, there was a charity aspect to it. It became fun. And, going into this weekend, despite the fact that there is some hesitancy from the players, I think what you're talking about, that sort of competitive aspect of it, draws out the best of these guys when they're on the court. And I do hope that we're still going to get that from the game itself. But I think it's still going to take some adjusting to. I mean, Jordan, Henry, we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but I don't know if you guys had anything you wanted to add about the landscape of the weekend as a whole. There's the schedule there for everybody. Either you guys got anything?
We kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago when they first announced that they were going to have it. I personally wish that they weren't, just given the circumstances. I get it. It's a money grab for the league. And they're trying to make the money back that they lost from the missed time last year, as well as the bubble. They want to get the best guys in the world together and help do that. But I just think, they've done a better job of controlling the COVID stuff over the last couple of weeks, but we've still had games postponed. We've still had guys miss, stretches of time. You look at the Lakers, Dennis Schroeder missed a couple games. Jimmy Butler just got back from Miami recently. So there's been guys that are still missing time from that. And I just think it's so to all these pieces together, especially with being the best players in the league, to put them all in one spot for what amounts to, like you said, one evening, and then to send them all back. I think the risk probably outweighs the reward here. I personally would not want LeBron to even go. I get that he has to go because he's the face of the league and one of the team captains, but definitely a little wary. I mean, it'll still be a fun game. I think the guys are going to compete, but I just wish that maybe they had pushed this off to either a later date or just not done it at all.
Yeah, Henry, anything you want to add?
I feel like once the players are there, everybody's going to be in the mentality of screw it, we're here, might as well make the most out of it, So the 3-point contest has an amazing lineup. We have Steph, Jaylen Brown, all those guys. So I expect that to be it's just, and then the dunk contest, Obi Toppin. I think I got Casey Stanley as my winner. I've seen him
I'll
play.
ask you for your winners in a second. Let's
Okay,
just
okay,
talk
okay.
about the last few of them
Yeah, yeah.
because getting ahead of ourselves, Henry. Come on now.
My bad. I'm like, seeing some of the lineups in like certain events got me a little more hyped and a little bit more like, you know what? There's no other way around this. Might as well enjoy it, you know. I just wish ultimately it wasn't happening. There's so much concern, you know, being brought up in the league that like it's not necessary. And when it was brought up to Adam Silver's, he said they asked him, they're like, oh, so like what's the point of this All-Star weekend? And he was like, oh, this is our biggest fan engagement event of the season, aka this is one of our biggest like money revenues like events of the season. Like we all know that. So um it's gonna be weird just to see everything play out in one day. But you know, we'll see what happens. I think at the end of the day, we're gonna be pretty happy to see some of the best players like in one city playing some basketball. You know,
This is Adam. I just thought of this. This is what Adam Silver, when they're like, "Oh, he's like, oh, it's gonna be a great weekend for the players. We really want the players to be happy." And then a little side wink to the
yeah,
guys.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
That accurately describes it right there. Yeah. Raj, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Raj.
Is Raj
Is
frozen?
he frozen?
Clearly, our takes were so good that we've frozen Raj.
You also can't deny that all the money being donated to the HBCUs, you got $3 million.
That yes,
$3 million in initial support, and
yes.
then that's just the beginning. Then you have each event, each person is representing a school or a group of schools, and they could win anywhere from $50,000 to $300,000 for the winner of the All-Star game. And then at the end of each quarter, you got $150,000 going to the leading teams, HBCUs. And that's just, it's all of this is for emergency aid, food, and mental health services. And you can't deny the fact and how good that is for the people around the world. Like everybody needs that. And we wish we could all get it, but at least somebody's getting it.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Randall. At least there's a good trade-off here for the All-Star weekend. I don't know. Did you guys see the court? I think the court was revealed today.
Yeah,
it was dedicated to HBCUs, and thankfully it's not a performative type of thing. It's like they don't just stop at the courts. They have all the money that's being donated and everything. So there's good initiatives being taken, and I think this is a very, very well thought out and played out trade-off that the league is doing. But Raj, what are your thoughts on the whole landscape of All-Star weekend?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. My internet cut out, but I agree with you guys, and I'm glad that you guys brought that aspect of the weekend up. I don't know if you guys mentioned it, but the refs are also all HBCU refs and all that kind of stuff. So this the whole entire gear of that aspect of the game and the charity and all that kind of stuff. That's something that you just have to admire and respect. And the league, it's going to have its up and down. People are not going to be happy about every decision made. But one thing that I do love about what Adam Silver does with this league is he tries to gear every decision that he makes in the right direction, whether it be business minded or whether it be society minded. And in this case, I think he saw the sort of benefits that he could add to society as a whole by the changes that he's made. And I'm sure, he's always given the players a much bigger voice than I think anybody in the past has, any other owners or any other commissioner in this league has. And that's something that I do respect of Adam Silver. And I'm sure they had a pretty big say in helping make that decision. They were probably like, if we're going to play here, we're going to make this situation, then this is what the sort of cornerstones of all the charity and whatnot has to be. So you have to respect that, and I agree 100%. It's bittersweet, I guess. All-Star Weekend is always fun. It's going to feel weird for it all to be in one night, but you do definitely have to admire that decision by Silver himself. Let's go ahead now and let's get to where Henry was jumping to just a few minutes ago and get into each event individually. Let's start with the skills challenge. And I feel like the addition of the big men into the skills challenge a couple of years ago really sort of made this one of the actually funnest events of the weekend. So this year's lineup is Rocco, Luka Doncic, Chris Paul, Julius Randle, Sabonis, and Vucevic rounding out the big men. Sabonis is the defending champ, right, of this event? Am I mistaken?
think so.
Yeah, okay. I think it was him and Jason Tatum last year, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, this is always I love having this sort of big man aspect to it because it really shows off that these guys are so much different than they were, even just like 10 years ago. Like you could have never had a guy like Shaq do this and actually be competitive in this competition.
Hell
But
no.
I love to see these big guys sort of being added to the mix here. So Jordan, I'll start with you. What's your sort of outlook for this event? Who you think's gonna run away with this one?
I mean, it is fun. I do agree. I know I just kind of started off with more of a negative connotation towards the weekend, but you're right. The events are fun. And I agree with you about the big guys being added. I don't necessarily think Vucevic maybe was the best big guy to add. I feel like I've never seen him do a lot of ball handling.
Put Joker in there. Come on. Doesn't make
Oh
sense.
yeah, no, that was a clear one.
Right? Didn't Jokic do it 1 year, I thought?
Yeah, I think he was in
he
last
did,
year, the
he
year
did.
before, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that is cool because we're in that era where big guys have this ability. Like you said, they've grown their games. Many of them coming up, I think partially because of like the late growth spurts too. Like you have guys like Anthony Davis who were point guards in like early high school, then they sprout up and all of a sudden they can handle the ball. But I think if I had to pick somebody, I think it is going to be kind of out of the water like Sabonis last year. I'm going to go with the guy who's been hot all year. Give me Julius Randle. Give me ex-Laker legend, obviously. And he's a guy who can handle the ball. He's always been able to handle the ball. He's been a good guy. He's been running transition for years, and he's done a really good job. Obviously, his assist numbers, I think, are at 6 or so this year, which is obviously a career high. So I think he's going to do well in terms of the passing, targets that he has to hit. And, the 3-pointers, man, you got to just hit one, at a time. And you got to get lucky. And I think didn't Sabonis or somebody, didn't he win it on like half court shot?
Like a bank, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to be like a sniper. You just have to get lucky. So I think he's going to come out of there on top. I think it just continues the streak of good luck for the Knicks players.
That's an interesting choice. That would have been my last choice if I had to make one here in this competition. But Randall, I'll toss it to you.
Raj and I are at odds again.
Randall, who you got in this event?
So with each player representing a HBCU and Chris Paul being the VP of the Players Association and hatching this idea, I feel like he's not going to let anything hold back, and he's going to bring it full force, and he's going to try to take that home for his represented HBCU.
Midway through his round, he's going to cheat his way to do it.
I got
Chris Paul. Chris Paul's your choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I do have him versus DeMontis in the final.
Okay. What you got, Henry?
I got Chris Paul. Chris Paul is hands down the point god. I think we all know that. And I think this is one of the events that he's going to thrive in, especially being such a high IQ point guard. It really falls under pretty much all his assets as a player. I can't really think of anybody topping him. And Randall, I keep liking that. I keep loving that you keep bringing up, the whole HBCU aspect. And, these players and events have more than just, a trophy for them. There's more on the line. So I think it'll bring a more competitive edge for everybody because they are representing something bigger than themselves. I think we all love to see that, but I got Chris Paul on this one.
I'm gonna take Sabonis defending his championship here. I feel like he's coming into All-Star Weekend. He's kind of rolling a little bit. He's had a few good games. We were talking a little bit trash about him a couple weeks ago, and then he went and dropped 35, 15, and 10 or something like that the next night. So I feel like he's coming into sort of bit of his chip on his shoulder, even though he is the defending champion. And I like Sabonis. I mean, he's good at passing the ball. He's got a decent shot. He's not the best 3-point shooter, but like Jordan said, it does come down a little bit to luck here, and if you've got a decent 3-point stroke, more often than not, I think you're going to have more success than somebody like a Randall, who I feel like is just not a reliable shooter when it comes down to it. When you look at the numbers as a whole, I really don't think he can make that outside shot.
You think Randall would be your last pick over Robert Covington? That would be
Robert Covington has 3. He has a 3-ball. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's got the 3-ball.
Robert Covington dribble from more than
I was going to say that.
But come on, I mean, do you really see these big guys dribbling? Do you see these big guys dribbling? Jordan's got the entire lineup of stats just ready to go. Oh my God.
Julius Randle is 41% from 3 this year on almost 2 makes a game. Take a hike.
I don't think he's gonna do it. I don't think he's gonna pull it out. Get out of here. I'm looking for. I'm looking forward to this competition either way. Talking about 3-pointers, let's get into 3-point competition. Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Steph Curry, Zach LaVine, Donovan Mitchell, and Jason Tatum rounding out the lineup here. What do we got here, Henry? I'll toss it to you first. Who's your 3-point champ?
All right, one person I know is not going to win. Hurts me to say this. It's going to be Jason Tatum because he has too much of a slow release for this type of competition. And this competition is all about speed. How quick can you get through the racks? And that's the only thing that's going to kill him in this. I hope he proves me wrong, but as a Celtics fan, I got to say the truth sometimes. But I think for the winner for this, it's either going to be between Steph Curry or Zach LaVine. I think this is a competition that Zach LaVine is going to thrive in, especially because he's just red hot this season. He's averaging 28 points per game. He's a killer beyond the arc and also in clutch time situations. So I think he's going to thrive in under pressure in a minute or so, getting through those racks. So it's going to be between him and Steph. But the person that I want walking away with, winning this event is Zach LaVine. Ultimately, I want to see him just because he's having such a good season. I want to just keep rolling on. Yeah, and I want to just keep him rolling in everything that he's doing. So I got Zach LaVine on this one.
Henry's favorite player in the entire league is Zach LaVine. I think we can just kind of establish that here.
I picked him as a starter for the All-Star game.
Exactly. So that's why I think you jinxed him. I think he's gonna come in last place in this competition. I think you just completely jinxed him with that pick. Randall, who's your winner for 3-point shootout?
So I actually have the same finals as Henry here. So I have Steph Curry and Zach LaVine because this is a contest based off of rhythm and clutch genes, right? And Zach LaVine has just that dog mentality, and he wants to win this. And I think he could be the first person to win both the slam dunk contest and the 3-point contest, which has never been done in the All-Star game history.
Coming in with facts. I like
so
it.
I think it's going to come down to those two.
And he's not pulling up pages from Real GM or whatever the hell you're pulling up.
So I think it's going to be close, and it's going to be hard for LaVine to get over Steph. And, Steph is obviously the clear favorite, but I think LaVine will be able to come out with it. At least I want him to, and bring him back home.
Oh, hopefully, man. Y'all need him.
What do you got? What shit take do you got here, Jordan?
Wow, that's harsh. Well, I mean, all these guys really are, great shooters. They're all shooting, near career highs or career highs from 3-point range. Got to go with Julius Randle again. I think he's just going to force his way into the 3-point guy. Now just playing.
42%. What did you say?
41.2%. Now, I think, the 3-point contest, it really is a matter of who gets hot too. You get a guy who gets going on the right night, and that's just how the competition is won. But if I had to pick, I'm not going against the greatest shooter that we've ever seen. So I'm going to pick Steph Curry over the final. I think Booker is a guy who can get extremely hot. He could also be out in the first round. We could see him not even make, the second wave of competitors. But he's a guy that when he gets hot, he can really get going. As the philosopher Drake once said, wet like a book, which means that the shot was wet. For those of you who don't know. So I'm still going with Steph Curry in the end. Can I bring up my thing that I talked to you about with Clay? Can we do that real quick?
What? Yeah.
So I talked about this the other day. I said, why not? We should have Klay Thompson be in here. Klay Thompson, sniper, and we'll just give him 75 seconds instead of 60 because he can move around, but he's just not super fast. I think it would be fun to see Klay Thompson in this. I think he'd probably do better than half the guys. It'd be funny to see him limping around on one leg, shooting better than Jaylen Brown or Tatum or whoever. But yeah, no. All jokes aside, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Steph Curry, and I'm always going to side with the greatest shooter we've ever seen.
I really wish
Steph
that
is what
my bad, Raj.
Go ahead. No, you got it. What's up?
I really wish that we could have had the OG Melo in there because we're talking about rhythm shooting and clutch gene. That's Melo all day, and I'm bummed that he's not in there, but he would have killed it.
Yeah, my bad. I just agree with Randall on that because I was watching some old Melo highlights. I was watching some old Melo highlights the other day, and he was just such a killer. He had one of the smoothest, quickest releases, and this is a competition he will thrive in. But do you guys think that Portland Melo will hold his own or no?
Yeah.
No,
You get tired.
didn't Melo pull this? Didn't Melo run this competition a couple times and did not do well, if I'm not mistaken.
Did he?
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he did it once, if not twice, and I don't think he did well. I could be wrong though. I could be completely wrong.
Where's your picture? Where's your picture of the stats? We need the receipt.
Steph, you don't pick against Steph in 3-point competition. I know he doesn't have the best record, and I think he's only won once, right? But like you just can't pick against Steph. Like it's the safest pick. When it comes to rhythm, hot streak, like quick release, like it's all Steph. He has it. Like, and I know he doesn't have the best record in this competition, but I still can't pick against him. He's the greatest shooter that we've ever seen in this game. And to Jordan's thing about Klay Thompson, I would love to see Klay Thompson run this in like 75 seconds, because he really is like the best standstill shooter in the league. So I just feel like that would spice things up a little.
I don't need him to like sprint, all the way over.
Put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Shoot from a wheelchair. Yeah.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry.
My videos aren't loading, but that was hitting the 30-footer against.
No, Jordan's coming with all the resources today. This is kind of ridiculous.
Dude, 50
all right, let's
ready.
Let's get into the slam dunk competition now. Your contestants there: Anthony Simons, Obi Toppin, and Cassius Stanley. I don't think I've seen Cassius Stanley play, and I watched a couple of Pacers games this year, mostly when they play the Cavs. But have any of you guys seen Cassius Stanley play? See what he can do at all?
Absolutely,
back in high school.
His time in Duke. He's actually had a couple posters, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't watch college basketball, so that's why. That's the explanation there.
No, he had one off like an inbounds play that I remember was like nuts. Like he like jumped almost over the guy. I felt
That's
really
exactly what happened.
Yeah. I think given the right opportunity in the league with his minutes, especially on the Pacers, we will be able to see what he can do in the league. He hasn't been able to get much playing time, but his time at Sierra Canyon and at Duke, he's had some pretty monster highlights that puts him as a right candidate for the dunk contest. So I'm hyped to see what he can do.
He's 6'5".
Are you picking him as your winner here?
That's my winner. That's my winner right there.
That's your winner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What do you got, Randall?
I have him as my winner because he's 6'5" with a 44-inch vertical. Like anything above a 37 is impressive, and 7 inches above that, like he's gonna be. So, you got somebody like Obi Toppin who's 6'9" with a 41-inch vertical, and they don't really reward the big man. It's like you can get up there anyways. We want to see something flashy, and so Cassius is going to be able to get up there, have some hang time, being able to do 360 under the legs, behind the back, whatever, and I think it will look overall better, and he might end up with the better scores.
I think we might be surprised though, because Obi Toppin, have you seen him play at Dayton? He's City. Like he has hops. We all know that, but I just want to see how agile he is in the air. Doing the between the legs, the 360s, and everything. He had a game actually where he went between the legs. So
that was right before everything stopped too. He
So he was on fire. So he's an athletic freak himself. So I know it's gonna be between Obi and between Cassius, but I think it's going to be between those two. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm a little worried that we're all on the same page here. It usually doesn't bode well for like the person we're picking, but I'm going to go with Cassius as well, kind of for the same reasons. I think with being 6'5" with that 44-inch vertical, it gives off. I was just thinking of him now. It gives off real like Jeremy Evans vibes. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but he played for Utah. But same thing. Rarely played, but was like the same height and could get up. And he never won a dunk contest, I don't think, but he came close. I think he lost a couple of years when like Levine and like Dwight Howard, Nate Robinson were in it too. So I think he gives me that kind of similarity where it's like just the fact that he can get up so high from the ground is just going to wow everybody, and I think influence his scores in a higher direction than Simons or Toppin will be able to do.
I'm going to pick Simons just to be a little bit different, but also because when these little guys fly and they do something flashy, it just looks better. And that is a lot of it in the slam dunk contest. How good does your dunk look? Like sometimes if you go back and look at the replays of some of these guys, like when John Wall did it back in the day and everybody's like, oh, the slam dunk contest is back. Like those dunks were not that nice. They just looked good on TV because John Wall is a good dunker. I feel like, when these small guys, when they come with the flash, sometimes they can sort of steal a little bit of thunder from some of these guys that look more like traditional, slam dunk contest dunkers. So, just so we don't all run with the same name here, I'll go ahead and pick Simons as my sort of underdog. But I think it's going to be a good competition because what you guys said, sort of like, those dunks that you pull from college and whatnot, like you've seen those highlight reels, like scrolling through Twitter and whatnot, and you can't deny that each and every one of these guys is, going to show up and going to put in some good competition, I think. And I think it'll be a fun contest. At least I hope so, because the past few years, outside of last year, I think have been pretty good.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Can I ask like the I feel like it's the obvious question here. Why don't we just have Levine and Gordon run it back?
Because Aaron Gordon has been robbed too many times.
They should give him another chance. Like he would. I agree.
Wait, didn't Levine say last year that he wasn't going to do dunk contest until he became an All-Star again?
I think he said he never would do it again.
I know that was Aaron Gordon after he got robbed last year. Yeah, he said it. He's like, I'm not doing this again. So I don't blame him, honestly.
I could just watch. I remember that was such a Raj is right. The last couple of years kind of stunk, and then last year specifically, I just remember being in awe of some of the stuff that both of those guys were doing. I mean, it was the heavyweight fight of all heavyweight fights. It's really too early to like go back and revisit his history, but like I feel like 10, 15 years from now, we're gonna put that in the conversation. Like maybe not. It's not obviously like it's not Dominique versus MJ in their prime, but it's like just a tier below that. It was that good. Those guys were. I mean, everybody was on their feet. The fact that Wade gave Gordon that rig score.
Speaking of Wade, I got a question for you guys. On Tuesday night, he mentioned, he's giving advice for the judges this weekend, and he said, "Don't hand out so many 10s." Like, I'm kind of on the side of agreeing.
I agree. The 10s have to be earned.
Yeah, I agree.
A little too frequently. Last year they were pretty good, but
last year there were a bunch of 10s that should not have been 10s. Last year there were some garbage dunks that got 10s from everybody.
Yeah, Derrick Jones Jr.
Levine had like I said, Gordon got robbed there because Wade didn't want to give him
right, yeah.
But yeah, some years and some guys they do give like unnecessary 10s, and once you start giving those mediocre dunks 10s, then they kind of fall in line, which is unfortunate. But yeah, we'll see. Who's judging it this year? Isn't it like past champions?
They released it's all these like Spud Webb's in there. I know there's a couple other big names in there.
There should be a high IQ then from the judges in terms of they'll know like what's a good dunk and what's not. Hopefully, you would hope that.
Hopefully, yeah. I don't know. They've had some good dunkers there in the past. That
Wayne Wade out there in that pink suit, looking like he's from Mean Girls, giving out 9s last year. That's not
personally.
Won the competition before.
Personally, I think Aaron Gordon deserved a 10 when he dunked over Taco Fall. I don't care if he clipped him a bit, but like the fact that he's 7'7" and he jumped over him, and like it's all a mixture of execution and hype. If you can like dunk during while everything is hyped, and I'm like that should bring about and you're jumping over someone that's 7'7". How is that not a 10? Like I don't know.
That's kind of what I'm saying with Simons. Like let's say Obi Toppin brought out Taco Fall and dunked over him, and then Simons did the same exact thing. Like Simons would get the win there, even if he sort of grazed him or sort of landed on his shoulder, just because he's a small guy. That's kind of where I was thinking in terms of like some of these small guys might like get a little bit of extra favor in terms of like if they're a small guy that does a crazy thing, maybe not as nice as some of these big guys could have done it. They'll get a little bit of edge there in the competition. You've seen that in the past. Like it just happens.
Nate Robinson, yeah.
Speaking of dunks, did anybody see Donovan Mitchell almost throw down that crazy poster yesterday?
Do
you guys know what I'm talking? I know Jordan. I know you were watching the game. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I saw part of it.
It was the
animal. That.
Okay. Did you watch the game yesterday, Randall? The Jazz Sixers
game? I think they might have been playing at the same time.
Donovan Mitchell almost had a poster. He sort of thrunked it, so the ball went in, but he was about to poster, I believe it was Joel Embiid, and would have been one of the greatest in-game dunks I've ever seen. If you guys can go back and check those highlights at some point, that was insane. Donovan Mitchell did the dunk contest a couple years ago, didn't he? I think maybe his rookie season.
He won it.
Yeah. He won it. Okay.
Yeah,
was it in a bad year? Because I don't really remember his dunks all that well, but I feel like he'd be really good in this competition.
He wore it. Yeah. He wore like a Vince Carter jersey, and he
would be great literally this weekend because he's so pissed off about getting ejected that I think he would just go out.
So we're getting the lineups rolling in right now. So maybe we'll save that discussion for the end of the episode. We'll loop back around to All-Star talk and close things out. But Jordan, I know you want to talk a little bit of Knicks here, so I'll kind of toss it to you and let you take the reins with this one.
The Knicks, man. I mean, I'm honestly in shock. Like I can say before the season, there's always, we did like our preseason show was like, we're going to write off, the Cavs who surprised us for a little bit, but are kind of falling back down to earth. Some other teams are like, even no offense, Randall, Minnesota, I kind of had already penciled out at the beginning of the year. And some other teams, I just think naturally like, these teams are done. And the Knicks were included in that. And look at they're the 5 seed. Like that's insane. Like I know we still have 36 games to go for most teams. And Miami's been playing well as of late. Indiana is always, like Henry said, that 3 to 4 range through 11 is really tight. So any, a bad week could really push somebody back. But I think they've just been playing really well. I think, all credit to Quinn Snyder of Utah for playing as well as they are. But I think Thibodeau deserves just as much consideration, for Coach of the Year. He's come in there. He's got them playing hard. I know maybe he didn't have the most success in Minnesota, but whatever reason with this group here in New York, he's got them playing hard. They play good defense. I'll pull up I got all the sheets here today.
Nobody can read this shit. It's so small.
If you look at it, though, you can actually see it.
I got you guys.
On their opponent side, all their defensive numbers are good in terms of like opponent's field goal percentage, opponent's 3-point percentage. They get out, they can test shots, and they don't have guys that you would think are like, like they're playing D Rose or playing. Julius Randle's having a great year, obviously on offense. Defensively, he's not really that good. Same, ditto for RJ Barrett and stuff, but they've just as a team been able to come together. They've got guys like Emmanuel Quickley out there playing. Emmanuel Quickley hasn't missed a floater all year. The guy just is money with those. So I just wanted to give them kind of a personal shout out. I think they deserve a lot of credit. I think that no one expected this. I have a couple of Knicks fans who were like, okay, we'll see you in a couple of years. Hopefully we're contending. But I just think that it's been pretty incredible if they've been able to do it. I'm interested to see if they can keep it up. But night to night, they're definitely, even when they're losing, they're competing in these games. They're making everything close. So I didn't know if anybody else had any kind of thoughts on it, but I felt they've done enough to warrant some recognition. It's finally time. I'm not saying the Knicks are back. I'm just saying they're
no. The Knicks are back.
Unfortunately, I disagree, man. They're buying in.
You can't disagree with me on this show. The show.
They're buying into Coach Tibbs, and they're embodying his vision, what he's always wanted to do. They are defending. They're getting into the half court. Their pace is one of the lowest in the leagues, but that's what they want. And then they're boxing out and getting many offensive rebounds. I think they're top 5 in the league for offensive rebounds. And like you said, yeah, they're holding teams to 32% from the 3-point line. And so after I looked at all this is all super promising. But then I look at their schedule and the games that they've already played. And their most difficult teams that they played against were the Nets, Celtics, Bucks, Trailblazers, and Spurs. And they beat the Bucks, which was really surprising. But I think with the way that Giannis and the Bucks are playing now, that's not going to happen again after they're about to play them. I think in their, not the next game, they play the Pistons next, but then the Bucks next. And I don't think they're going to let that happen again. And also the other next games that they have coming up is OKC. They've already beat them one time. The Nets, and then they got a couple of games against the 76ers coming up too. So they got a tough schedule ahead, and I think they're going to drop quite a bit, especially with the seeds 4 through 12 being wide open. So I think we're going to clear the smoke from the mirrors here in a little bit.
Yeah, and that is a good point. I'm looking at the schedule here while you're talking about it. Their ending is very tough. They end the last 2 weeks of the year. They're at Denver, at Phoenix, at the Clippers, at the Lakers, home for the Spurs, home for Charlotte, who's been feisty, and then home for Boston, which we'll see how they're playing there. So no matter what they're doing, even if how that is really do. And I agree. They have only beaten a couple of good teams, only played a couple of big games. So this will be kind of their big test here coming up. Julius Randle's obviously been the crazy thing too. The guy's putting up 23, 12, and 6 a night. I knew he was good. I joke about him being like a Laker legend. Obviously, he's not. But he had moments of real good stuff with them. And I think, going back to his Kentucky days, he had that potential too. But the playmaking, I think, has been impressive. To average, 6-7 assists is not something that I thought Randall would ever come close to. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what they can do. I think the basketball world is a little bit better when the Knicks are good and relevant, because it's like you have like that prominent East Coast, like no matter how good Boston or Brooklyn or these teams are, like New York City is like the center of it's the mecca for basketball, especially on the East Coast. And you have like the Lakers and stuff on the. So when you have both those teams going, it's a real fun dynamic, and I'm happy that at least they have fans back now in some limited capacity, because the Knicks are going to be good for the first time in a decade. They should have some people there to at least watch them.
Well, what criteria are we sort of building here for the Knicks are back? Like, are we saying the Knicks are good? Are we saying they're great? Are we saying they're okay? Like, what's the criteria here?
That the Knicks are back at 500. Like,
and listen. In the to go back to what Randall was saying about the Knicks schedule, in a conference that looks competitive right now, like the Eastern Conference, sort of referencing the Western Conference from even last year, a couple of years ago. What it really comes down to, especially to secure that 6 through 8 seed, and with this year with the play-in tournament and whatnot, you feel like the Knicks are pretty safe, because it really does come down to, can you beat the teams you're supposed to beat? And that's what the Knicks are doing right now. It doesn't matter if they lose to the Nets or the Bucks or the Lakers or the Clippers down the road. If they're beating the teams that they need to beat, they're going to be 500 plus, because the Eastern Conference, if you look at that bottom tier, they're going to be playing those teams a lot more. They're going to be playing some of those Western Conference tough matchups, and if the Knicks are winning those games, then they're fine. They're fine. And to echo what Randall said, they've bought into what Tibbs has sort of, what he brings to the teams that he coaches. And I know Tibbs has a bit of a bad rap, but I feel like I've been on his sort of, I've been siding with him since he was ousted. I still don't understand, if he's got a young core and those guys are willing to run high minutes and play the intense sort of type of basketball that he wants to play, he's one of the best coaches in the league. We can't deny that now. We really can't deny that now, because this is, not really a whole lot different look Knicks team than we were expecting to see, like drop like, the first 10 games and just, be completely out of the picture from the get-go. And it really does come down to Tibbs being one of the best coaches in this league. And I hope he gets the respect that he deserves now, because, we saw him win Coach of the Year in Chicago. I know they sort of hit a ceiling, but you just can't deny that he's a good coach. You really cannot deny it now. And this taking this Knicks team, and if they fall off the face of the earth a little bit now, okay, whatever. But the fact that he has this team at 18-18, going into the All-Star break in the 2021 season, like, you can't deny that Tibbs is a good coach. I'm tired of hearing slander against Tibbs.
The only slander I got for you is just don't let him be the GM. We don't need that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Don't give him too much power. Don't give him too much.
Never good when it's
that's a good
both.
point.
You can either be the coach or the GM. You can never being both never works out.
I mean, LeBron's the player and the GM, so
Let's sort of finish out. We got a couple other things, I guess, on the news front, but we found out earlier this week that Lloyd Pierce is out in Atlanta. Nate McMillan's going to be filling the interim role. And I think this is, it sucks, because Lloyd Pierce is a great guy. He's done a lot, along the voting lines and whatnot. Back just a couple months ago, he was up front and center, sort of really pushing that sort of message. And I really respected what he was doing on that front, but he just hasn't seen success in Atlanta. And I think a lot of us came into the season hoping that they would be a better team. I know Jordan is still sort of out on them defensively, but offensively they have a lot of talent there, and they just haven't shown up really. They're still struggling quite a bit. So Lloyd Pierce out, and I think Nate McMillan coming in, filling in the interim role there, is a much better fit, because I think Nate McMillan is good on both sides of the ball. I think he's a really great coach. I still am sort of, we talk about it. I feel like, every other week when we go off the air, we talk about how the hell is Nate McMillan, how did he get fired from Indy? It just made absolutely no sense. That whole entire decision was just weird. They gave him the extension, they ousted him. It was just like, and he had a good season there, despite having missing some of his key players for a lot of that season. It just made no sense to me. And I like Nick McMillan coming in here. They're still going to struggle defensively. I think that's inevitable, but I think that they're going to be a better team now than they started. Yeah. They're going to be a much better team now than I think. I think Lloyd Pierce maybe he needs a couple more years as an assistant coach or whatever it may be. Nate McMillan is a very good head coach, and I think that he'll maybe have them fighting for some of those lower playoff seeds in the Eastern Conference if I had to pick. But what do you guys think? I'll open the floor to whoever wants it.
You guys go first. I have a little bit of a rant, so I'm going to go last.
Okay. We can go Randall, then I'll go, and then we'll go to Jordan's rant.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So with a record like 63 and 120, like, obviously, you can't be too happy about that, but you kind of have to look at the context. At the beginning of this season, you're missing people like Gallinari, Rondo. You're also missing Bogdan. Most of those guys have missed more than 10 games of a 34-game first half of the season. And that's super difficult to try to get a team to mesh and stay together. But when you're hearing reports of people saying that Lloyd Pierce lost his voice in the locker room, that is way bigger than a red flag. That's a meteor headed towards Earth. You don't want to hear that at all. And, even if I'm coaching little kids and they're not excited to listen to what I have to say in the huddle or in the locker room, I might as well take myself out of that situation. And you even hear Lloyd Pierce say from The Athletic that he knew he was on the hot seat as soon as he got hired. And if he wasn't able to perform, he knew it was going to be him out. So now that he's fired and you got Nate McMillan in there, once a head coach gets fired, all the players know that they're on thin ice. And so that's why I think we saw that clutch win yesterday, even though the Magic didn't have Aaron Gordon and Cole Anthony. They still came back from a 19-point deficit and grinded it out in clutch time. So kudos out to those guys. And last thing I'll say is Trae Young needs to get a little bit better. In wins, Trae Young is 33 points per game, 51% from the floor, but still averaging 3.8 turnovers a game. And then in losses, it gets even worse. He's 21 points per game, 36% from the floor, and almost 5 turnovers per game in 18 games. So, he's taking shots 30 feet away when you still have 24 seconds on the clock. Yes, we should be able to respect him from that distance. He can make those shots, but he has to pick and choose when he throws them out there. And, he's just got to be a better leader. And he might not end up being the guy. He might have to be a Kyrie Irving to a James Harden. James Harden's running the floor and Kyrie Irving scoring a lot of the points. So maybe that would be a better role for him, but time will tell.
Great points. So what you got, Henry?
Just to agree with everything that Randall was saying, why do you guys think that Trae Young went from an all-star starter last season to not even being picked as an all-star this season? It's just he puts up the numbers, yes, but then they don't translate well. And we know that the Hawks specifically and Trae Young have a problem where Trae Young is the center of this whole new trend in the NBA where, you shoot and you lean into a player and stuff. I think that just adds more controversy to a dynamic of a team if you have if your best player is doing stuff like that and it doesn't correlate well with the rest of the team. Plus Trae Young and John Collins, they had some controversy too. There's reported controversy that John Collins knew that Trae Young wanted the ball all the time and too much, and he didn't like that idea. And just trade rumors revolving around John Collins. So I think we do have to look at the context too, what Lloyd Pierce had to deal with, regardless of having a lot of talent on his team. I'm not trying to cut him slack or anything, but I think he'll find a good role, as an assistant coach and maybe move his way back up to a head coaching position. But I think I agree with Raj. I think Nate McMillan would be the best fit for this Hawks team. And just like Lloyd Pierce, he's going to be in the hot seat straight from the jump. So whoever gets that hiring role for the head coach, they're in the hot seat immediately. So it's you're running out thin ice and stuff, but Jordan, I want to hear your rant because I know Trae Young is your favorite player, so I want to hear everything you have to say.
Well, you're on mute, Jordan.
I always do that. I was practicing the rant. No, this is nothing against Nate McMillan. I think he deserves to be head coach. We all agree on that, and we are all puzzled by the firing. So it's nothing against him. I hope he does well. I hope the Hawks do well. I think he's earned the right to be a head coach in this league 100%. So get that out of the way there. Second thing, we all know that when coaches get fired, especially in this kind of situation, I think one thing that we tend to forget is that the coach is kind of at the forefront, right? He's the guy that's doing doing the interviews after each game. He's the guy you see on the sidelines when they're losing, making the changes in lineups, stuff like that. But the ones who put the teams together and ultimately set them up for success or failure are the GMs. And I'm confused as to why, and maybe he'll get fired later in the year, at the end of the year, if they don't make the playoffs, but Travis Schlenk is their GM. This guy in the past couple of years has traded Luka Doncic for Trae Young and Cam Reddish, which again, it's nothing personal with Trae Young. He's a good player. He's 26-9 is something to sneeze at, but it's Luka Doncic. This guy's a perennial. He's going to be an MVP candidate for the next 10 to 12 years, and could be one of the best 50 players in NBA history within the next couple of years if he continues at the level he's at. So that's a huge whiff right there off the bat. Cam Reddish stinks. I'm not even going to discuss him because that guy's a huge bust. I'm serious. The guy shooting. What is he shooting? Actually, hang on. I have the. You know me. I bring the stats here. Where are we at? Where's our Hawks stats at? Boom. There we go. We got Cam Reddish shooting 37% this year. So that was a great throw in the trade. You have John Collins, like you said, who doesn't, is obviously frustrated with how the way Trae Young plays. And that's the frustrating thing with me, too, is the way Trae Young plays basketball, like you guys touched on. This is a guy who's constantly, this is James Harden school of flopping, trying to get to the line every time, trying to kick your feet out or jump into guys on three-pointers. It's a very unwatchable style of basketball. I've only seen a couple bits and pieces of Hawks games this year, and that's partially by design, just because I don't want to see them out there playing. They threw a ton of money at Danilo Gallinari, which I guess in the moment seemed okay. He's been hurt, and when he's been on the court, hasn't been playing well. You gave a bunch of money to Chris Dunn and Rajon Rondo. Ditto. Both of those guys have been pretty much duds. And your second best player, DeAndre Hunter, who was playing very well, a guy I liked coming out of Virginia a couple years ago, has unfortunately been hurt for half the year. So it's kind of limited his availability as well as the Hawks defense, because he's probably their best on-ball defender. So my whole point with all that is, like, how can you blame that on the coach when he was given poor pieces that didn't quite fit together, and it's put him in a situation where they're just trying to basically outscore everybody each night? And I think that's unfair. I think the coaches get a bad rap a lot of times, like I say, because they're on the forefront. They're the ones dealing with everything up front, but it's the GMs and the presidents and all those front office guys that you never see. Those are the guys that are putting together these teams, and that's why I think it's really unfair. I'm not saying that Lloyd Pierce is could be some all-time great or anything, but I think he deserved a little bit more of a shot than what he was given, especially given the roster that was put together for him. So that's kind of my point of contempt. I think that he got kind of the raw end of the deal here.
To piggyback on you, Jordan,
yeah.
They were also speaking of Tony Ressler,
Mm-hmm.
the owner of the Hawks, and he's looking for immediate results. So, and with that being said, he puts pressure on his front office, and the front office puts pressure on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said before, you want to build a organization from the top down, and they might not be going about it in the best way.
That's a good point, and I really agree, especially when you have the new owners and stuff. They always want to be seeing success in their teams early. You want immediate results? Don't trade Luka Doncic for Trae Young and Cam Reddish. You would get immediate results. Can you imagine if the Hawks had Luka Doncic right now I'm not saying they'd have the exact same roster, because you never know, but just imagine Luka in place of Trae Young and Cam Reddish. I think you'd have some better results.
Run that pick and roll. Luka running that pick and roll with John Collins would be a lot of fun to watch, honestly.
Yeah. I just it's a series of failed moves from the front office, and you hate to see a guy get kind of. I mean, I get it's a business. Guys are on the choppy block. It happens, but I'm on that side here. Rod, what are your thoughts on it?
No, I don't have any additional thoughts. But yeah, the coaching changes. Oftentimes it can be a scapegoat, because when you see front office changes, I feel like those more often happen in the off season, whereas the coaches are more likely to get fired in the heat of the season, and it does become a scapegoat. But Randall dropped Lloyd Pierce's winning percentage off the top of this, and it's not very good. So I think it does come into play. It is the entire culmination of everything. And yeah, Trae Young, when your anchor is Trae Young, you're really not going to win a whole lot of games, if we're being completely honest. Trae Young is a fine player, but he's not a great player. He's not a great player, and you just can't rely on somebody who is that concerned about shooting those 30-footers and is going to play zero defense. You're just not going to win games. That's really what it comes down to. Let's go ahead and close things out. We'll talk about Blake Griffin more, I think, once he signs with the team. I'd rather not speculate on it, just because we're running short on time, and we do have the starters in now. So let's go ahead and discuss that real quick. Team LeBron. Speaking of shit GMs, I feel like KD would be a shit GM, because LeBron got Jokic, Giannis, Steph Curry, and Luka all in his starting lineup. Rounding out the bench there, Sabonis, Chris Paul, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Ben Simmons, Rudy Gobert, and Damian Lillard. Switching over to Team Durant, starting lineup. Obviously, Kevin Durant is not going to be playing, but Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, starting lineup, and the bench is Devin Booker, Julius Randle, Nikola Vucevic, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Zion Williamson, Donovan Mitchell. This feels like A team versus B team. Like, I don't understand what happened here. What the hell happened here? Oh my God, Durant would be the worst GM in the entire league if he was making picks and drafting and whatnot. Oh, it is ridiculous. This is the most lopsided sort of matchup I think I've ever seen in an All-Star game.
I just need to see the differences, and it's just like, oh my goodness,
it's baffling. It's how did LeBron get the 5 best players on the board all in? Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Even his bench is probably a little bit better in terms of like if you're actually competing.
Oh hell yeah, much better. Well, he has Dame, Paul George, Chris Paul, and Jaylen Brown. Like,
it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, Ben Simmons actually works here because you don't even need him to like shoot. You just need him to play defense. With everybody gone.
But honestly, if Kevin Durant were playing and if he weren't injured, I think KD, Kawhi, and Joel Embiid in the starting lineup is pretty deadly enough to keep up with Team LeBron. But no KD, so. And Bradley Beal's hot. We gotta admit, Bradley Beal's the best scorer in the league right now. So we can't look at Team Durant and be like, oh, they're a shit show. Because come on, guys, like they got some pretty good players.
I just look at like LeBron's team, and it's like literally like including if you include Dame off the bench, it's like 4 out of the top 5 MVP candidates.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He got all MVPs.
I will say one fact that I did because I found those screenshots on Twitter, obviously, when the NBA tweeted them out. Mitchell and Gobert were picked last. So the Utah Jazz were the best record in the NBA.
Really? What?
Yeah.
Not surprising.
Yeah. I mean, Gobert is kind of like conducive to an all-star. Like, he deserves to be an all-star. He's just not very conducive to like the game. He's not a sexy pick. And Mitchell is fine. I like Donovan Mitchell, but like if you're asking me for a guy who can really light it up, like I don't know, like I picked Zach LaVine, I picked Booker, Zion, like I would take all those guys, Chris Paul, Jaylen Brown, I would take them all before Mitchell.
No, man, we gotta put some respect on Donovan Mitchell.
I like Donovan. Actually, Vucevic would have been
I think this is Jordan's opportunity to pull his Lakers not worried meme out because like this is LeBron basically being like, I'm not worried about the Jazz at all right now. Like
how disrespectful is that? Being the best team in the league and being voted or getting picked up last, being the 2 last players getting picked up. That's damn.
I think that's how scared. I think this is a sign. That might be a sign of how scared teams are of the Jazz. I really don't think there's. I know the Jazz are the best team in the league right now, but I don't think there's any reason to be scared of the Jazz when it comes to the playoffs.
Man, you're right.
They're real right. Hawk vibes. I feel like we're right. Like we're spot on with this one. Like this is 2016 Hawks. Like they're going to be great, and then like the Clippers or Lakers or even the Suns could take them out in the playoffs.
Yeah, the West is 8 teams deep. Like 8 teams deep in terms of like it's too deep in the West. Like you can't pick the Jazz over most of these teams. I think that are in the playoff picture right now.
Yeah. So I guess are we just saying that we think Team LeBron's going to win? Can we just like?
I don't think we really need to Randall, make our picks. Randall, I think you had something to say.
Yeah. So I've always noticed that these. I think we've done 3 seasons now of picking teams, and LeBron always picks players that I think he either has a history with, wants to play with, or I feel like he has some ulterior motives to the picks that he makes. Like he
clutch lines.
Picked Anthony Davis, just to get those hints of them 2 playing together, or picking Steph Curry. Like the Lakers blew out the Warriors the other night for a reason. Like that, everybody wants to go out the Warriors, and LeBron has that deep feeling in his soul that he wants to get over on the Warriors. And then you got somebody like Giannis, who he competed against for the MVP last year. All of these picks have something behind them. And, you even got Paul George in there. You got Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is this guy.
That's just a mess with Paul George. That's just a mess with his mind for the playoffs. That's why I picked Paul George.
Exactly. They used to say that, I think it was the head coach of the Knicks back in the day that used to say, don't talk to Michael Jordan. He's going to try to sweet talk you and then, go to dinner with you afterwards. And he's going to take your soul on the court. I feel like LeBron might have a little piece of that, but obviously he has a lot to go before he can get there.
I like the Jokic pick, obviously, because LeBron alongside Jokic facilitating, like let Steph and Luka just sort of roam wherever, and you have LeBron and Jokic passing to them. That just feels like a match made in heaven, if you ask me.
You know what's going to happen with LeBron and Jokic. I think at some point Simmons is going to be out there too. I think Simmons hits the 3. That's my bold prediction for the All-Star game.
You think that's your bold prediction? That's a pretty bold prediction, right?
It
there.
is. He hit one like a week or two ago, and it was game. They were getting blown out. It didn't matter. But I think the All-Star game, like early in the game, it's going to be like, who cares? And I think Simmons is ballsy enough to try it there. So we'll see.
I just hope the game doesn't end on free throws again, because it's the same format as last year.
I think they changed that rule that the game. I don't remember the exact sort of tweak that they made, but the game can't end on free throw this year.
There you go. All I want to see I want to see this. I want to see the best player on the floor hit a step back 3, and I don't want to see Ben Simmons doing this just knowing it's an All-Star game. You know, like I don't want to see players like that think they can just do anything they want at All-Star game. If we do, it'd be funny, but that's
a point. So why don't we do that instead of like we can pick who's going to win. I think we all agree probably Team LeBron, but who do we think is going to hit the last shot to win it? Because you got to assume LeBron's going to. You got to assume it's probably going to be that starting 5, right? Maybe if anything, Jokic.
I'm gonna go with Jokic. I'm gonna go with Jokic because Jokic has hit a lot of game winners for Denver. Jokic has hit a lot of game winners for Denver. If you don't watch Nuggets games, Jokic has hit a lot of ugly floaters that just.
Randall's giving it.
I agree with Randall. I know what he's referring to.
He's referring to.
I don't know if Dame's gonna be. I don't know if Dame's gonna be on the court. I don't know if he'll be on the court in the last couple minutes because how deep LeBron's team is.
If it comes into a clutch time situation, do you think Giannis is gonna be on the floor, offense for
because he's Giannis.
Yeah, but if we were playing
he's Giannis,
the most clutch player in the NBA right now is Damian Lillard. I think I will want him taking the last shot, especially on that team. He's the clutchest player on that team.
If I'm Quinn Snyder, though, I'm seeing that my Jazz guys got picked last, and I'm just putting Gobert on the floor to end the game over Jokic.
Yeah, but come on, Quinn Snyder's not going to be. Gobert's going to play 15 minutes.
So you said Jokic. Gobert. Randall says Dame. Henry, are you also picking Dame?
It's just tough.
Give me. I've been riding with Luka all year. Give me Luka. I can totally see Jokic. I can totally see Dame. And I could also see, Luka, who's like the next,
One thing to note on Luka, he was out Wednesday night with lower back tightness. And,
was he really?
Yeah. So his trainer told him to take a day off, and Luka wanted to play. He's able to play, but I feel like they might limit his minutes going forward.
As long as he's on the court.
Rick Carlisle is probably not going to let his main guy get overplayed.
Yeah, I love this comment though. Last shot. Fate of the universe. I remember that whole skit from Matt Coleman. Alien. I'll be $1. That's
a horrible take.
That's a good comment right there.
All right, I think that's a good way to go out here. That'll bring us to a close for this episode. You know where to find the three of us. You know where to find NBS on our March store. But Randall, special guests, let people know where they can find you, what you're doing for NBS, all that good stuff.
So I just started with MBS. I'm really happy to be with the family. And now that I'm going to be starting to write articles for MBS, and the column is called All Sides of the Floor with me, Randall again. And you can find me on Instagram. I drop videos. I got a video up on Anthony Edwards. When he was drafted, wasn't so happy. And now I'm starting to eat my words. And so you can see me retract my statements and make new ones. So hopefully y'all can go check me out and share my stuff.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for joining us, sir. We'll definitely have you on in the coming weeks as well. Love what you're bringing to the table and excited to see what you bring to NBS. We'll be back next week, maybe talking about where Blake Griffin lands. Maybe he gets traded for Andre Drummond. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Come back and join us for